morning, slot racers!
Oh man, Maurizio.
This is Maurizio Ferrari
Hi.
speaking from California, from
There you
Electric
go.
Dreams. Welcome to the U.S. Nationals 2022. It can't get any greater than this.
Well, I
How
don't need
did I
to
do?
introduce them. Thank you very much for being here, Mauricio. I was looking forward for this time. Like we've been playing this race for almost 6 months now,
Yes.
and finally here. We're probably gonna have 60 racers. Can you imagine that?
Great.
I think that's the biggest race in slot car racing a long, long time here in America.
Yeah.
I want to say 10, maybe 15 years. I don't want to risk it because maybe there's a race that I don't know about it. But I spoke with Felipe Lespinay. I spoke with other older racers, and they can recall 60 car grid for a slot race, especially 132nd. 132nd for sure. That's one of the biggest ones ever.
Yeah, thank you.
We're very, very happy about it. Thank you very much for being here. Are you having fun here in California?
A great time. Actually, not only in California, because my wife and I came here about around end of July, and we've been, doing some traveling through the Bryce Park, Canyon Park, Glen Canyon, and all that sort of things, hiking up and down the mountain. So we've had really a great time so far, and that's also something that we have to thank you guys for, because if it wasn't for the U.S. Nationals, we wouldn't have had such a great time here in the U.S.
Is that some sort of a pay for Olivia that you need to do all those nice things before you be concentrated for a whole weekend on slot car racing?
Possibly, yes.
Possibly, right.
She happily agreed on that.
But you told me that she likes cars, right? You went to the Peterson twice because of her. Like we were there before, but now I have to redo Peterson because.
Well, actually, she actually likes cars. We've been to Goodwood so many times together, like probably six or seven times, and she really likes cars. She likes classic cars, and so.
What about our trip yesterday?
I was just amazing. Bruce Mayer's
garage.
Garage is
Oh my
just
God!
out of this world.
Isn't it the coolest guy around? Oh my God!
And yes, and it's really so friendly.
Yeah, it's
Friendly,
just like so many stories, and then it's, oh yeah, I just turned 80. I was like, what?
Doesn't look like at all.
It looks 63 max.
Yeah.
It's the most impressive story that they have. Like, it's not about the Scaglietti, it's not about the Bizzarini. When he starts to speak about his age, it's just like, I can't believe that. The coolest guy around.
And the fact that the collection actually is made of unique cars. It's just not just a Porsche 935, but the Porsche 935 that won Le Mans, actually, the overall Le Mans. And then there's some, as you know, very interesting story about that car and the brothers that run the team.
Brothers one, yeah. He said that the new IMSA it's not supposed to be an international motorsport. It's supposed to be international, in the 80s, International Marijuana Smugglers Association, because it was funded by drug money.
Well, I actually...
That car and the Blue Thunder, everything.
Yes. I
almost every single car. Mechanics with Rolexes, pit stops, A question for you.
Please.
I know that we're going to be a little nerdy and talk about the cars, and I can see that you brought some prototypes that I'm eager to see it. But I'd like to know more about the story behind Slot.it. We had Andrea here.
Yes.
Andrea Noviello from NSR a couple of weeks ago, a month ago. We didn't have the studio. We shot in the back of the warehouse. But it was pretty cool conversation. I know that you told me that story once too. Like in the beginning of the 2000s, you guys were kind of competing in Italy, and this might be the beginning of what you know today as the modern slot car scene. Because before 2000s, we have kind of bad cars, one-piece chassis like Ninko, like whatever we were racing that time. And then the Italians came, and then they started to produce the two-piece pod, the two-piece chassis with pod. The cars became much more compatible. The pieces much more straight, aluminum wheels, and then we started to have like a really good scene of racing.
Yeah.
So Andres tried to spoke a little bit about it. I don't think he's very young, so he was very, very young when you guys beginning. His father unfortunately passed away, but Can you tell me a little bit more about that scene? It's not clear in my head, and I don't think nobody ever explained that to me. But as dealing with slot cars here in Electric Dreams, I can figure out that that piece of that era in Italy was very important for what we have today.
Yes, it was. Actually, I didn't start my company, with the purpose of making slot cars or spare or racing parts. Um, uh, I, together with my business partner, was doing consultant work for the largest Italian toys company. It was Giochi Preziosi. It's probably around 1 billion euro turnover now, so they're a very, very big company. We were designing toys and electronics for them. And I was racing slot cars.
As a hobby.
As a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, when I quit my job at Ferrari, at the Formula One race department, where I was a firmware engineer for engine control unit, I ended up, because my boss then did not want me to leave and try to, make Ross Brawn convince me to stay. But it was a taken decision, and eventually Ross Brawn and I ended up talking slot cars. Because as you know, and probably everyone in slot car racing world know, he started his career at a very early age, designing and racing slot cars.
Chassis, brass chassis, and stuff
yes,
like
exactly.
That,
And so I was racing, and at a certain point, I realized that most of the guys that were the best drivers and the guys that were winning races actually would spend a big amount of time, literally hours and hours, picking up the best and straightest axle and plastic wheels by disassembling literally, say, 10 Ninco DTM cars, picking up one axle and prepping it to be perfectly straight. It was a really time-consuming operation.
And money consuming too, right?
And money consuming. Yes, they have
and at some point when you have a competition and you have one guy who needs to buy 10 cars to get one axle straight, this guy suddenly has an advantage. Time and money.
Yes.
And then...
Exactly. And so I said to myself, I've never been able to do that. I cannot spend, all those hours and money, to get one straight axle. Why don't we design one that is okay, just from straight and properly designed? We are engineers, we can do that. And we did. We designed the first inline crowns, got straight, rectified steel, proper steel axles, bushings, and we started selling it. And wheels, and aluminum wheels with set grub screw.
And those are for the Ninco cars. At the time, you guys were racing the Ninco cars.
Mostly, because what was raced back in those years, especially in Italy, were mostly Ninco cars, whether they were DTMs or the GTs, like McLaren GT.
Because the cars were gone, but then...
Ninco had the right product at the right time. And also, the fact that Ninco was easy to put together helped in setting up the big events, like 48, like tracks for 48 teams for 24 hours, endurance races and things like that. So the axle things and gears snowballed, and I started a drawing table, started designing a universal chassis with proper motor pods. And that's what I designed the chassis and the pod with the spherical bushings, self-aligning bushing, because I looked at the industrial, actually dishwasher, washing machines, electric motors.
That's they use the spherical bushings.
And yes, they use spherical bushes because they self-align. And so I said, there must be a reason for that. It wasn't easy to make the tooling, actually, because it's a quite precise
for the plastic part.
For the plastic part, yes. And I wanted all the complexity, that is, all the mechanical complexity of the mold, to be in the motor pod. and to have
because you need to be able to take it off and exchange in case of you have some.
yes, and those you make one difficult mold, but then the chassis is easier. Besides, there are obviously dynamical advantages, but that was not the only reason that I designed the motor pods that basically have remained unchanged in their form.
Yeah. So you
They
were
have been
responsible for the how do you call it? The model pods or
motor pod.
No, the motor pod, but the two-piece chassis.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, actually,
There's a fight over that.
well, Ninko had made them,
Oh, okay.
and ProSlot had made them. And
ProSlot.
credit where it's due.
But the ProSlot that we guys see in Europe is not the same ProSlot that we
No.
have here, right?
It's the same brand. I don't know what agreement was in place between.
And who was manufacturing that?
No, in the U.S. it was Dan DiBella.
Yeah. Then the
And
Bell
in
now John Miller.
Okay, and in Europe
went
it
there.
was a guy named Bravetti.
So it was Italian.
He was Italian.
So he was using the ProSlot brand because probably it was huge in the 90s.
But there was an agreement of some sort, I think, between DiBella and Bravetti, so that he could use the ProSlot name and logo.
Yeah, because there's no American ProSlot parts on those 1/32 scale cars.
Yeah, I really don't know
not
how.
even the motor.
I really don't know how it worked, but I certainly took a good look at the Ninko motor pod. Ninko did not do that for performance. As far as I remember, they did not have the rear axle attached to the motor pod. They used the motor pod just to be able to swap NC1 and NC2s inside the same car.
Okay.
Whereas ProSlot,
Do you think that was because they ran out of motors? They couldn't get the same type of motors from China? Or?
I really don't know.
Okay.
It would be an uneducated guess.
Yeah, Ninko has so many different motors, like the
Yeah.
name and brands, and it's just like, and we kind of it's kind of hurts us a little bit because we have a club here, the Ferrari Club, that race Ninko cars still,
Mm-hmm.
and they race NEC1 motors, which was the very first ones, and you cannot find in the market anymore.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
But the reason behind it,
But let's
No.
come back to. I'm sorry for interrupt you. Let's come back for the motor pod thing because there's a dispute over that,
Yeah.
right? There's a big dispute actually. Some people claim, oh, we don't invent it, somebody copy whatever it is. But right now, everybody uses it because it's definitely the
I tell you the story as it is for me.
okay.
Okay, I looked at Ninko, and then at ProSlot, and obviously ProSlot cars were on the market before we made slotted cars, and I studied the Toyota ProSlot GT1. That was a very fast car. In my opinion, it had one serious flaw in the motor pod, which was a very, very long bushing on both sides of the car. So actually, I tried to improve. I did not invent the motor pod.
It was there already.
It was there already.
You just
We-
improved the idea.
Well, I think so, because we have been successful. So yes, I think it can be said that we have improved the idea. And still, I must say, and I say it with pride, if I know that, for example, in Spain, when they have GT3 cars and they're free to choose the motor pod, regardless of the car that they are using, about 50% of the racers ditch the original motor pod in their cars where there's compatibility, chassis compatibility, which means scale auto and sideways mostly. So they ditch their motor pod and put the slotted motor pod in about 50% of the cases.
Very nice.
And we now have a very significant improvement to the angle winder motor pod coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this idea came off like 23 years ago, and
Yeah.
we're still using the same parts for it. The tungsten weight, the magnets are the same, and they are all
Sort of, not
they-
exactly the
yeah,
same.
not the same, but they are interchangeable. They can
Yes.
fit on any pod that you ever made. So this is was a great idea and like a very important business idea actually, because you
Yes.
still can use the same.
And it was a good design, obviously, because
Of
it
course,
stood the test of time.
Yeah, it's the only slot car using the spherical
Yes.
bushings. which was clearly like the first guess would be just do bushings or ball bearings. You just need a clamp and just put a ball bearing there. Everybody will use a ball bearing, and people will think that the ball bearing will be, it might be faster actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a great idea. When again, that's one single reason that I can see that the slotted car could go forever for that bushings. It's very hard to wear. I believe that I have to change a couple, but it's not like a common issue. Yeah. Very good, Maurizio. So coming back to the history of Slotted. So you have you and Maurizio.
Yeah.
Both Mauricios starting a engineering company, and then you guys start to do parts for the Nico cars that you're competing, you were competing. But Maurizio was not involved in racing, right?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Don't ask him to drive a slot car.
Okay, it happens. That's good. But can you tell me more about that idea? So after you guys started developing parts, when came the idea to do the first car?
It came to me, actually. Okay. I fell in love with the Audi R8C. It's still today one of the most beautiful, in my opinion, racing cars ever. And actually, it was underdeveloped at the time when it went to Le Mans. It was unsuccessful at Le Mans, but at a certain point in the race, James Weaver said that the car was the best car that he has ever driven in race. So the car had a lot of potential. It was designed by Tony Southgate, by the way, and nobody had done that yet. So I was looking for a low, streamlined car that we wanted to make competitive with a Pro Slot Toyota GT1. That was a dominating car back then. And
that's like 1997, 8.
Yes, the Audi R8C is a 1999, I think, car that only raced in Le Mans.
Okay.
And
but I talk about your project.
Our project is 2002.
2002.
The first Audi R8C came out in 2002, and according to some Spanish friends that are slot car historians, is a car that marked.
Is there such a thing? Is slot car historian? I'm just joking.
Well, I think that more than you think, probably.
We have one here.
Yes, exactly. And they say it's a car that marked a before and an after, because the car debuted in the 24-hour Sanceloni, which was, because unfortunately now it's finished after 25 years, was the most important, together with the 24 hours of Brussels race in the world, and it dominated. So it did 1, 2, 3.
Okay, on its very first race.
On its very first race.
By that time, you have like the production going already, or just prototypes?
It was a production car.
Okay.
It was a production car already.
But
August 2022. It's 20 years now after our first victory in Sanceloni.
So, but when it came to the decision saying, okay, now we made enough parts, people know our name, let's do the first car. Where you go? Like you called China?
Yeah. Well, actually, we called Audi first.
Okay, for licensing and stuff.
For licensing.
Do they send you files so you can have?
They did.
Oh, okay.
They sent us 2D files of the original files for the car, and nowadays we're used to 3D designs. That was a 2D design of the car, and it was amazing. Sections like a CAT scan section, of the body. We see all the slices, and from that we designed the car.
Did you went to see the original car?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, I did.
It's in Munich, right?
No, it's in the Audi
racing team.
No, it's Audi has a big warehouse where generally you're not allowed to go. This is where they take the cars that they put in the museum, or they send to Goodwood
but in the Bavaria, right? In the Bavaria region.
I think I don't know whether Ingolstadt is still Bavaria or it's another region of, or it's bordering with the Nuremberg region.
So I took you to the Bruce Myers collection yesterday, so you know where you're gonna take me when I get to Italy again, right?
Yes, but
I
I'm
didn't
going to
ta-
take you. I'm going to take you to a place when you come to Italy, which is the Maserati collection.
Okay, good.
Which is the yes,
Good.
because
it's on camera, right? You know
yeah,
that, right?
I'd be happy
Okay.
to. I'd be happy to. I know
But
the owner of the collection. So,
But let's make it public.
Yeah.
Thank you, Walter Baines, our customer here. He was the one kind of figure out how we talked to Bruce Mayer.
yes, and
so
thank
Walter
you for,
Walter is the one to thank you here.
and I would like to thank
Yeah.
him for giving me such a privilege yesterday. Oh, yes.
But let's come back. So my question is, okay, you guys are there just over 40s, you and Maurizio. I
Yeah.
believe you guys are about the same age.
Yeah.
Doing parts as fun, right? Like it's not the main business of the company.
Yeah.
Right? You're doing like those Linko parts. Oh, let's make better axles. Let's make better gears. And then you decide, you know what? There's a market here. Let's do a car. Let's dominate the race, and then we start to sell cars.
Yeah.
From that point, how do you calculate the investment that you need to make to say, look, now we're going to turn us into a slot car company. This is probably not the very first one. We're we're going to make a lot more cars. So this, because that was a big change for you guys.
It was a big change.
And how, like, there's so many parts. You cannot produce everything, like, locally. You need to go to China, right?
Well, we
The-
make parts in Italy and parts in China.
Okay. But the first R8C, everything was
There
made in
wa-
Italy?
They were made in Italy. Yes, the first one were made.
Even
in
the
Italy.
mold, the plastic stuff?
Yeah, no, the car was completely made in China. The HRS was and is made in Italy. The car's always been outsourced to China. Actually, the first cars, and this is for collectors, we have made a production run of 1,000 plus 1,000 Audi R8Cs.
That's CA01A.
CA01A and CA01B
Mm-hmm.
that carry made in Italy in the chassis. Because the bodies only were made in China, and the chassis was injected, was tooled in Italy, injected in Italy, and then the cars were assembled in Romania.
Okay, international car.
Yes, but then we moved all the production.
And how did you deal with this first cost, this first risk? Because if you made 1,000 cars,
Yeah.
it's a big investment for a company
It
that's
was.
kind of started.
But
starting.
we had the backup, of having a good consulting contract with a big company. So we said, even if this flunks, this is not going to
Then
break our back.
There was a risk, but not a
Yes,
big risk.
and we thought that there was a.
Did you
good
sell
market.
well the first one?
Very well. We couldn't
Sold
make.
out.
Yes, we couldn't
Yeah.
make enough.
And then when you did the second one, what was the second one? The Porsche?
Second one was Porsche 956,
Yeah, the Kenwood car, right?
Kenwood and Canon at the same time.
At the same time.
At the same, yes, CA02A and B were manufactured together in China, and already with the factory or through the company, not the same factory, that we are still working with. We tend to have a very, very long-lasting relationships with the manufacturer. With the company that
Mhm.
actually does physically the job, and because it is important in business to have very good
This kind of relationship.
understanding and long-lasting.
And there's
relationship.
still the same company doing the cars?
Yes.
Okay.
We also have another one, which is the one that makes the track, the polycar track for us now. But we've been
And they're close to each other when you go to China, you have to travel to visit
by
those
train. By
ones?
train.
That's right.
Yeah, I've learned the number so that when they
It's just that.
when they called
How
when they
many?
called the train number, I can guess it. And then they have big visuals.
How many times did you get lost in China?
No, I've never. I've managed so far not to get lost in China.
You go by yourself or you go?
Oh, by myself, yes.
Oh my God!
I love it.
When was the first time?
It was 1999 for Jockey Prezioso.
Was because of slot cars or?
No,
Ah, okay.
no, I used to go there.
So yeah, that's what I'm meaning. Like you had some facility already with
Yes.
China and production and
Yes,
this kind
yes.
of stuff. It's not something like, oh, who should I call?
Exactly.
This Google.
Yeah.
Slot cars company.
Yes. Well, the first. I'll tell you a story here. The first Audi R8C was made through one of our through a company that was actually, in general, making toys for Jockey Preziosi.
For who?
Giochi Preziosi. Giochi Preziosi is the largest Italian toys company, the
Okay.
company that we were consulting for.
Okay.
So we had to make this.
What are you doing for that company? Like microchips and
No,
electronic stuff?
electronic, and
stuff.
also toys design.
Toys design.
We've designed for them a few toys that went on sale.
Were you the designer?
Yeah, we were the designer. We invented the toy and designed it. Yeah,
What kind of toys?
One was
This is a big parenthesis, but I'm so curious.
no,
about
it's one was probably the most successful was a dog that would walk and bark and sit, and depending on what whistle you were whistling at him.
the one that spins around you?
No, it was just a plush dog,
dog
that
that
would
goes-
just walk, sort of, bark and sit.
That's
Three
That's
actions.
CA00A.
Yeah. Oh no, dog 00.
The dog 00A.
And the kid.
That's the most rare slotted.
Yes,
that we
the
have.
kid was given would get 3 whistles with
Yeah,
3
yeah.
different frequencies, and the electronics inside the dog would recognize the frequency and do whatever.
Very nice.
Yeah. And then there was a Pinocchio that was very nice. A Pinocchio would read a story to.
The Pinocchio, somebody asks you for a tune advice. You lie to the guy, and the Pinocchio just go, "No, you should through the tires. Boom. You should have smaller tires. Boom."
Well, actually, of course, the Pinocchio had the growing
the
nose.
yeah. So from the beginning again. So
Yeah.
you guys were there doing the CA01A, which is the R8C,
Yes,
and then we did the new mode, the Porsche, right?
yes.
So you designed the mode, you ordered the mode from some probably from Italy, and you send the mode to China?
No, the Porsche, starting from the CA02, all the molds were made in
In
China,
China.
except for some motopod molds.
How much is a mold today if I need to do a new car?
I'm not going to tell you,
Okay.
because if I told you, I'd tell this to anyone because we're live. So
No,
I don't. In general, we don't disclose that
Okay.
sort of numbers.
But I'm guessing, and you don't need to, but I'm guessing it's around 40 and 50,000
Yes.
euros.
Maybe less, a little bit less, but
Okay.
it's now let's say
No,
Yeah.
I'm just asking that because it's a big investment for any slot car company, especially the ones that are not the big 2 groups, Carrera
Yes.
and Scalexers, to make an investment. And I know that people do like 1 or even sometimes 2 modes a year,
yes,
and they need to sell a lot of cars to pay for that mode. And then because of that, you need to choose a car that have a lot of liveries to
Yeah.
deliver through the years a lot of cars. Your latest car, the Jaguar's XJR 10,
yeah.
there is only 2 liveries available.
No, actually, we need to make basically a new body probably, or just the rear end. I don't remember off the top of my head, but probably just the rear end.
For,
And
the,
we can
for the silk cut one?
for the silk cut, the JVC, and for a
JVC.
yellow car that was also raised by a privateer.
Okay. So we're going to have like 5
yeah, we're gonna have like
5 different
5,
levers
yes.
for the Jaguar. So that spreads this model for like 3 or 4 years more.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
exactly.
And then you use all the components for the other cars.
Yes, then the cockpit, the
wheel,
the wheels, the
wheel hubs.
chassis. So it's just either body or rear end of the body, because the Jaguar is split in 2 parts.
Okay. Yeah, we're having here the Nationals, and the Jaguar came just for that. And I believe that at least 40% of our grid
Yeah.
is going to be the Jaguar because it's a Group C car, but it still is a little wider and a little longer, and I
Yeah.
think fits well our track.
Yeah.
And I remember when you were about to release that, I asked you, "Is that the fastest car?" You said, "Yes, that's the fastest car." So you knew from the ground.
Yes, I must say, maybe unfortunately in a way, because I would have liked it to be a tad slower. Now, the story behind that car is that the car's been in the making for like 6-7 years. But what started as a new body for like this JR10/11 body for the XJR9 10 chassis turned out, when I read the books and read that the car had in reality almost 1 foot longer wheelbase, that I could certainly not use the same chassis if I wanted to make it properly.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if you extend the wheelbase by that much in a slot car, you know how important the distance between the pickup and the
Yeah.
rear axle is, and
Even the pickup in the front axle is.
yes, and then the car is slower
Mm-hmm.
because
The
there
whole
had-
body is lower.
yes,
is
there had
lower.
been an evolution in real Group C cars.
Yeah.
Then next, I think we are looking at the Toyota TS010.
I don't know that car.
Yeah, and
So is that another car that is lower and wider?
yes, and maybe then that's going to create more some difficulties with the front pickup, with the pickup positioning, the XGR14.
Are you the one doing all of those designs?
I supervise all the design. I do quite a lot of design still for the company, but I supervise all the design. I don't do the bodies myself.
Okay.
But I supervise
Is there
it.
somebody working at the Slot.it today doing the bodies and doing those designs, or
Yes.
it's somebody? It's a third party.
It's a designer that lives nearby and is not on our payroll,
Okay.
but he's a freelance, but he's been working for us for 10, 12 years.
How many people working at Slot.it today?
Around 10, including...
I went there 2018 maybe, and I
Yes.
really appreciate you having me because I wasn't working for Electric Dreams. I was just like a hobbyist,
Yeah,
discovering the 132nd Ward. I
you
was
were more
going to
than welcome.
Imola. I was going with my wife to Imola to visit the crash site of Ayrton Senna.
Yeah.
And then I discovered that you guys are kind of on the way. And then I sent an email. You promptly, yes, you're welcome. And you received me for like almost 2 hours explaining everything. The day that I was there, I don't know if you remember, but you have the 330p4 mode
Yes, did
on
I?
your hand. Yeah. And you're very excited about the new polycar track
Yes.
because you told me that you can just pick it up and put it behind
I
the
still
door.
am.
You still
I
have.
still am.
Can
very
you
happy.
tell me a little bit more about the polycar track? Because as far as I understand, the scene here is a little different than Europe. And I went to Spain, and everybody was racing Ninko tracks, and
Yeah.
they're very bumpy. They make those long tracks with long straightaways, and you can see the car bump
Yeah.
all the way. And I think your track uses a similar texture
Yes.
to kind of, I don't know, can you tell me
Sure.
a little bit more
Sure.
about the
What I wanted-
project?
What I wanted was my dream track. It is a track which is as flat as this table. Or
This table, we kind of...
yeah, but it is flat.
Okay. it's
Okay,
fine.
if I routed it,
Yeah.
or say as flat as a routed track, sort of.
If you
No.
see behind it, we have a lot of things that are trying to make this stable. Like, okay, I understand.
And with a grip similar to Ninko, and with a very good electrical connection. So, and I think, personally, I am extremely happy at the way the track has come out. We have a great electrical connection. I can tell you that we have a big 8-shaped track that we take to hobby shows. Has been assembled, disassembled.
I saw it at the UK festival.
Yes, that one.
You were missing some parts. We have to fish some parts. I don't know where you pick up some parts. Some
Uh,
R2 turns that you're just like, oh my god, it's missing.
No,
some."
eventually we find them all. Yes, eventually we're able to put it all together. But we've done that with, actually it was exactly the same track that went to Verona Hobby Fair for like 3-4 times. And we've never had, on that track, with no booster cables, never had a failure
Mhm.
or any issues with power supply. And then, as you have seen, the bridge was
Yeah.
put together without any underneath support, because once you put all the connections,
That is very impressive. We
Yes.
have one, like the Ferrari Club, they have those plastic tracks, special electric,
yes,
and the bridges are always a problem.
Mm.
Here we have one mobile track on a 4x8 that we go to the car shows.
Yes.
And I choose not to do any bridges because I know
Yeah.
it's just a problem. So when I saw that was very impressive because I know that you guys put together the track in like half an hour. It's a big
Yes.
track
yeah,
and it was working. It was stable. Everybody was having fun.
yes. And now imagine that in Nuremberg we have a track which is stays probably on. It's a figure of 0, 4 lanes. And I do it regularly every day. I take the track up from the table I do a sort of hula hoop with the track, and then I put it back on the table, and it stays together. And you can actually, it's so flat that you can actually race like metal chassis cars on the track.
Okay.
Well, sponge tires are great on the track.
Sponge tires too.
Yes. And we made it. We choose to make it as wide as Ninko and Polycar and Fleischmann, because those three tracks were sharing the same around 90 millimeters width. So we could make adapters for Ninko, Polystil, and Fleischmann. Polystil / Polycar, because the first Polystil were sold as Polycar in Italy. Now, just to finish, we have 5 radiuses. I don't know how you
Radius curves.
Well,
I don't know either.
it's Latin, so it should be radii or whatever.
Yeah.
And
they need to bear with our accent. I don't care.
Yeah. and we are tooling actually the lane changer.
Oh yeah, that's the next.
Yes,
next
the XXLC.
And then you're gonna be able to use it with the oxygen system.
Yes.
So we're gonna become the Polycar track will become digital.
Yes.
Okay.
And the good thing is that you can even if you put in the lane changer, it can still be used as analog, because the lane changers we don't have a power base in our digital system. So
it's based by the chip. It's not based
Yes.
by the power. So
Exactly.
you can race analog cars and digital cars on the same track without having to
Correct.
switch or anything.
Correct.
There was another big switch for you guys, because when the Polycar brand came along, because as far as I understand, the Polycar brand is something from the 60s.
Exactly.
It's the equivalent of Scalextrics in the UK, of
Correct.
Strela in Brazil. So did you guys acquire that brand? What was this? How did it happen?
But it was derelict.
Okay.
So we just re-registered it. Nobody had been using it for years, so legally we could re-register it.
Okay.
And we did that for the Polycar and the Polytoys. We haven't...
Polysteel, right?
No. Okay.
What is Polysteel? Can you explain?
Yes, there were 3 brands that belong to the APS. If you look at the Polycar, I don't know if this can be seen here.
Yeah, Polytoys.
APS, Polytoys.
Okay.
This is the original APS. Was Agrati, Perfetti, and I don't remember who the name.
Okay.
The 3 guys that founded the company.
Okay.
At a certain point, I think that this was the largest Italian toys company in Italy, like 800 people working there in the 60s. And they had these 3 brands: Polytoys, that made die-cast cars; Polycar, that made slot car track; and Polysteel, that was also making model cars. At the end of the 60s, early 70s, I think that this is my belief, they changed the width between the track lanes of the Polycar track, turning it into what was later known as Polysteel. But because it was completely incompatible with the earlier Polycar track, probably, I guess, the consumer was a bit how to say, confused.
Confused, yeah.
Confused.
Or even mad because you couldn't.
Yes, they bought new pieces and they were completely different. So they changed the track name to Polysteel, and Polycar was abandoned, basically.
So they used the 3rd brand just to trying to fix a branding mistake, and
exactly.
No, just to fixing a product mistake and making a big branding mistake.
Yes. So Polycar was a very important name for slot car racing in Italy, and they made 124. They made 124 scale in the 60s that are now very sought after by the collectors, because they were Lexan bodies, and it's very difficult to find one of those cars still in good condition. Then Polycar was used by the same person that had the Pro Slot brand name in Romania, and they made cars that were, say, not well received by the consumers, and so they abandoned the thing. So eventually, when the brand was abandoned, after a few years, we re-registered it.
And what was the reason for you guys to revisit the Polycar brand? Why you're marketing two brands?
Yes, because as you said it before, Polycar in Italy was the name of the toy, of the game. So when I have to explain to anyone, slot cars, yes, or Polysteel.
Just like in the UK.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
it's like
It's a
Scalextric.
Scalextric or
Yeah.
Carrera in Germany.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
And we have Autorama in Brazil.
Autorama.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
Brazil
exactly.
it's just like it's made by Strela Toys. And
Exactly the same. Exactly the same reason.
and we don't have something like that here.
No, you have this incredible slot car history.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. But we don't have one brand.
You don't have one brand.
Yeah.
Yes,
Maybe the name Slot Car came from here.
possibly.
Because I went to the UK festival. I don't recall anybody.
And still, Google, whenever you try to translate slot car from Italian, say, to English, they translate to slot machine.
Slot machine. Ah, yeah.
It's a damnation.
Yeah,
It's a damnation of the name.
That's a bigger problem.
Yeah.
So you guys decided to use the name, and then you decided on a secondary line with the first Polycar models that came with plastic wheels. So
Yes.
it's supposed to be a cheaper model, or
Well, the first, the Formula One come with plastic wheel and the Polycar brand. Why Polycar?
but way in the back you did the 312 PB, right?
Yes,
That was a Ferrari.
yes, but we did it as a slotted. The first 312 PB was
okay.
slotted. Yes,
Okay,
and it was a kit.
was a kit.
It was
yes.
a kit.
But what was the first Polycar car? The Ford.
Unless I'm wrong, I think the Ford Formula One.
The Ford.
Car 01. Which one is Car 01A? Oh, maybe it was a
Was it
Ferrari 312
KK something.
KK.
Right?
Yeah. Well, the KK was slotted.
Okay.
Car 01A. We should look on the
If you
catalog.
don't know, how can
I don't remember, but no, the Lotus
I'm gonna
was
Google.
yes, Lotus was the second one, and the reason we use plastic wheels on the Formula One is because if you look at the Formula One, you easily understand that they are very complex, and they're difficult model to put together, so they are expensive.
Car 01A is the 312 PB number 3,
Yes.
the Monza car from 1972.
Yeah. Okay, did it come with plastic wheels?
Yes.
The Car 01A?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't remember, like maybe
Befo-
the new. I think the first one that you're putting aluminum wheels are the newer 330 P4, the last one,
Yes.
the one with the blue line.
Yes.
Even the two early models of the 330 P4,
Yes,
they come with
they have
plastic,
plastic
wheels.
wheels. Yes, we have repositioned the brand a little bit because it deserves to have metal wheels. The other reason
And
is
probably the price difference not that much.
not
right?
much. Well, there is a significant price difference when you make them, but also we feel that it is better to provide metal wheels anyway
Yeah.
if we can keep the price within a reasonable limit.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that you may have noticed is that under the Maserati is made by the same factory that makes the P4, and the wheels are under the box base.
Yes.
Because that factory is not confident that the spraying process would not go into the say the channel where the axle goes. If that happened, then it would be a disaster. It would glue the axle and the wheel together. So we said, okay, put plastic wheels. Our consumers, our customers are
Yeah, so the axle will not fit, and then they're gonna have a problem.
yes. Or if they did it when they
Gonna
when
be
the paint
wobbly.
is still wet, then you would seize the
so
wheel.
who puts the aluminum wheels below the box? You have to bring from China to
No,
Italy,
they
or
do it in China.
So,
Yes, they have all
but
the
they
wheels.
do the wheels too.
Yes, they do everything,
Okay.
but they are not confident that they can do a good job
Painting it.
painting them. And we say, okay, we have learned by experience, if a factory is not confident, just don't do it.
How's that relationship with the China factory? Like you have to be in touch almost daily, right?
No, we are in touch frequently, but not almost daily.
Is that something that you do, right?
I do, yeah. And I used to go there like 4 times per year.
Oh God. But when you like we do here at Electric Dreams, we do some special models with other manufacturers, and I know
Yes.
that so many details are not even involved in the engineering part of it. It's just like packaging and livery and
Yes.
painting. I'm assuming that you have some sort of experience and you have some sort of a good relationship with those factories, but
Yes.
still, is it that flat and straight? Look, this is my project. Bring me the prototype.
No.
No, right? Yeah,
No.
that's my. It's must be like a process that.
It is a process. Just to give you an idea, we designed the body of the car, 3D body, and to give you an idea for the Eureka, just as an example, we sent them the 3D design, and their tooling designer said, "Okay, I cannot do this." For example, the rear
Okay,
fin.
so there is restrictions over there too.
Yes, and the rear fin said, "We cannot make the rear fin as you have designed." And we replied, "Oh, but we've done."
They say straight to you that they cannot make, or they say to you, "Oh, if you want to do this, there's an extra cost."
No, they say we cannot make it.
Okay.
I mean,
did you ever send something that is kind of impossible to make, and the price was just too high to?
no, because we more or less have an idea. I mean, yes.
Okay.
And so, for example, the rear fin on the Eureka, they said we cannot do it, and we asked, "But you've done it on that model."
The Eureka is the Lola, right? No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Eureka 07 is an LMP.
Okay, it's an LMP.
It's an LMP, or
But it's based on the Lola, right?
no, it's same category, same class.
So it's a new car that we don't.
It's a
see.
new car.
Oh, okay.
It's a new car.
When it's coming out?
Next year.
Okay, that's
Next
completely new. Nobody knows
Yeah.
about the Eureka.
Oh,
That's
it's been shown in Nuremberg, and then it took forever
okay.
to finish the design. And so they sent us the design back and said we cannot do this, and we rework it, and eventually we agree on something which is good for us and which is good for them for tooling, and they move forward. Then after 2 months,
What about pricing? So they send you a quote?
yes,
for
of
that?
course.
And
Yes.
does the quote vary according to the model?
Um,
Because your final price is
yeah.
the same.
Yes, it varies, but not by much. Not by much. So the tooling cost varies depending on how many tools you have to make for one model. So it does not change that much.
And how is to deal with those manufacturers? Do you have some sort of a price haggle? Can you negotiate a little bit, or?
We have been working for so many years with the company, and we know each other so well, and that we know more or less what the tooling is going to cost. The price of the models have changed over the years, but they try to be reasonable, and we also try to be reasonable. I mean, unfortunately, we would like the cars to cost less because the prices and the shipment have been
Yeah,
skyrocketing.
skyrocketing.
Yes.
But I'm still super curious about this process. Like I want to come back to the 01A when you have to deal for the first time. How did you discover this company? Is that something that you have this experience from your engineering
that
company?
was the story I was about
Okay,
to tell
there
you.
you go.
That was the car 01A was made. The car 01A and B
Okay.
were made by a Jockey Preziosi company.
Okay.
So the Chinese company that I knew through my relationship with Jockey Preziosi.
I got it.
And
So it's the same from the people who brought you Pinocchio.
yes, yes, and the guy, the head of Jockey Preziosi Hong Kong.
It's 9:30.
Yes.
We're getting.
So I
aside.
finished the story, and then
Okay,
we'll take a short break.
All right.
The guy that was the head of Jockey Preziosi Hong Kong, Enrico Bonnier, and I like to remember him because he's not here anymore, but he was a really dear friend of me. And he helped me, set up the thing. But unfortunately, we both realized that we needed a level of quality which was not toys-like quality.
Yeah, it's more. It's a
So
racing car. Come
We
on.
actually threw away half of the bodies that the company made
Oh my God.
for the Audi R8C. Half, like 50% scrap rate.
That bad?
That bad.
Okay.
Because they were dealing with water decals for the first time in their life, and it was
Ooh,
a
so just the
disaster.
decoration was
Not
bad.
the bodies. I'd say the body probably we scrapped like 10-15%, but they scrapped 50% of the decal sets that we have set. So we said, okay, we cannot do that anymore, and they said, sorry, Maurizio, this is what we can do for you, but if you need more, we just can't help you. So I went to the UK. I had a very friendly relationship with Hornby UK, with Frank Martin was the chairman back then. And I asked him, Frank, can we ask to the company that you are using, don't remember their name, but in China, and to which he said, no, I'm sorry, because that would take up some production time that we need for our cars. Fine. Frank was a very nice man to work with because he was really friendly and said either yes or no.
Right?
Like, honest, yes. But I was quite desperate at that point.
Yeah,
What are we going to do? I left Margate. I was quite desperate. I was scratching my head. Okay, where do we go next? Because I want to keep making the car.
And that's a 2-hour train.
Into London. And I went into Hamleys. And I picked up a 143 model of the Mazda 787B and made by a certain company. And I looked at the box, and there was the name of the company. And I said, okay, let's try, let's have a chat with these guys. And we've been working with them since then.
How was the first contact? Email or just
email,
phone call?
Email, and then we spoke over the phone. And the guy speaks English, French, is actually he's a French guy.
Okay.
That French-Portuguese guy.
And he's based on China.
He's based in Macau. Actually, the company is based in Macau, and they have their own factory in China. And we have changed factories. And at a certain point, the factory that they work with in China changed ownership, and eventually they shut down. So getting the tooling back was difficult at a certain point. Yes.
Because they're using the tooling, but the tooling
belongs to us.
Yeah.
Yes,
the molds
entirely. So the old company, when they shut down, they made things difficult for us.
I think there's a story with AFX that they lost a lot of molds, right?
I believe that.
And they cannot make a lot of cars, and people are asking for that.
It happened. Luckily, it never happened to us. Now, if you don't mind, if I can make a phone call.
Yes, okay.
Just, okay.
We'll be back.
We'll be back in 5 minutes.
So we're coming back after the call. Was that a call for the Lancia guy?
Yes.
They're going to have lunch today?
I'm going to have lunch with, are we being recorded?
Yeah.
That's fine. With Mr. Ed Levine, who is probably the greatest expert in the world on the subject of Lancia Fulvias.
Lancia Fulvias.
Yes.
And you have one?
I do have one.
The silver one.
Yes.
And you told me there is an expression in Italian to describe that car that because the
fanalone, which means big fanale, fanale being the light, the lamp.
Fanale with a U.
Fanale, F-A-N-A-L-E.
Fanale.
And fanalone means big fanale. And
because the inner
light is bigger, and that only was made on a very specific Lancia Fulvia, first series, 1600 HF. So technically it's a 1.6 Rally HF Lancia Fulvia, also known as Fanalone. And it's the same car with which...
The rally,
the one, the 1972 Monte Carlo Rally, against all odds.
Now I'm going to let you shine. Can you tell me the story about the rally and the factory and the employees and the Christmas?
What's that?
The Lancia story that the employees
go.
Oh,
the real story.
Yes.
Well,
fascinating.
No, yes, you should really. Sandro Munari was also known as the master of rallying in the 70s. Was an amazing driver. And he was Lancia official driver. And in 1971, the Lancia Fulvia was... actually had reached the end of its production. So Lancia has basically let go for Christmas 71, 6,000 workers.
Don't say that they let go for Christmas. This is like a bad Christmas gift.
They
let go for Christmas. No,
well,
here's a Christmas
it was
gift.
Christmas time. It was not a Christmas gift, but imagine. Unfortunately, they knew that.
Let it go.
They knew that December 31st would have been their last, the last day on the job. On the
production, yeah.
On the production, and so they were actually fired.
Fired during Christmas time.
During Christmas time. Well, so you should hear Sandro Munari himself tell his story. There's a short video on YouTube And and then in 1972, the Lancia Fulvia was still racing at the Monte Carlo Rally, but nobody would give the Lancia Fulvia, the outdated back then Lancia Fulvia, a chance.
It was not one of the favorites.
No, the favorites were
the same car that those workers were working on it before they got laid off.
Yes, it was actually a design of the 60s, the Lancia Fulvia, whereas the Alpine A110 and the Porsche 911 were much more powerful. And if you look at an Alpine
and rear-wheel drive too.
And rear-wheel drive, but if you look at an Alpine, at Porsche 911 and the Fulvia, it is clear that the Alpine and the Porsche are racing machine, and the Fulvia is a road car turned into a racing machine. But however, it snowed, and it snowed, and it snowed. And Sandro Munari did possibly his masterpiece on the Monte Carlo roads, and the Alpine had troubles with gearbox, and
Porsches.
And the Porsches were not able, with all their horsepower and rear traction, to match the pace of the Fulvia. And eventually, the overall victory of the 1972 Monte Carlo Rally went to the Lancia Fulvia and Sandro Munari and Mario Mannucci, this co-pilot. And Lancia received so many orders for the car that they hired those 6,000 workers back. They reopened the production lines, actually. And you should hear Sandro Munari himself, tell the story and say, okay, he was so proud of what he did. Not only because he won the Monte Carlo Rally, but because he put 6,000 people back to work.
And the sales of the Fulvia just...
Yes. And they made the special edition Monte Carlo Fulvia.
Oh.
Yes.
How many of those are made?
I think 50,000.
Okay.
I think they...
It's not that rare.
Yeah. I think
so
they...
the race that made people come back to work.
Yes.
And you have one of those Lancia Fulvias.
I have one of the Fulvia that was made in 1970, and it's exactly the same model, but road-going one that was used to develop the car that won Monte Carlo and many other things.
Very, very nice.
Yes.
I saw you telling this story to Bruce yesterday. I said, okay, that's something I'm going to ask because it's pretty cool.
And the car's been in our family's possession since my grandfather bought it in 1970.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a Lancia Fulvia coming from Polycar or Slot.it soon?
No.
Not a classic rally?
No. We had the opportunity at a certain point to make those cars, but unfortunately, because they had been made by another slot car company.
Yeah, I think SCX, right?
No, I'm not talking about SCX. I'm talking about another one, but that is not making slot cars anymore. But when we tried to reach a deal, they discovered that they had just thrown away the molds. So
the molds are ready. Oh my God.
Anyway, it's not going to happen.
All right. Is there any new class of cars coming up? Because today Slot.it carries the DTM, the Group C IMSA, the LMP.
Yes.
The classic ones.
Yes.
Which is the Ferrari, the Chaparral, the GT40.
Yes.
Those are sidewinders. Where else?
For Formula Ones, did we mention?
The Formula Ones. For Formula Ones,
Polycar. Yes, but it's always two brands, one company.
Both Formula Ones. What else?
Am I missing something?
Oh, the modern GT.
Modern GTs.
The GT3.
Not currently. There are cars that I would love to make, but
now you need to expand the GT3 one. I believe.
Yes, exactly. This is our priority.
Is there anything new coming up that you can share with us?
Not yet. We know what the next one is going to be, but we're not.
Next year, one new mode. Is that what is happening?
For GT3s, we are looking forward to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's that matter when you decide the car, how this process goes inside of Slot.it. Like, is it something that you decide based on market, or something that you have to share and discuss with everybody?
Yes, because even if I do most of the thinking for Slot.it, future projects, but of course, 2, 3, 4 minds are better than one. Yeah. When it comes to brainstorming and new ideas.
What was the last one? The last one was the new Ferrari, right? The 512.
The last mold Yes, with the 512.
Okay. And that's
512
a success already. Like, can we talk about the one that I'm seeing right there?
Sure, you can
Oh
take
my
it out from the
God.
box.
Oh my God! Look at
Please,
this.
please note that this is a prototype, so I'll tell you something that we're going to change. So the flames here, let's call them flames, are blue, should be blue, and the rear wing is a shorter rear wing. Not, I mean, less long, so
Shall I take a
shorter.
look?
Yeah, please.
Oh my God! Yeah, this is something. And that's the Penske Sunoco. That's the one that raced in Daytona. Mark Donahue, David Hobbs. The red one is already XSS. I think it's sold out in
Yeah.
most of the places. Can I take off?
Sure.
Sure.
Please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Look at this. Yeah. There's some. Oh, I didn't notice that little flames on the. So this is a prototype that was made in Italy.
No, it's
No.
made in China.
Made in
This
China.
is a pre-production prototype.
Pre-production.
It is the first prototype that they make to have it reviewed. So we send them the pictures, decals, everything, explaining them how it has to be made.
positions and everything.
Yes,
already.
exactly. And then they send the first prototype, and then we review it and send. In this case, we don't need a further prototype because the changes are minimal.
Yeah, it's just delivery because the car is ready, right? The red
Yes,
is
but
based on the red, and then you have some.
Sometimes, if the prototype is really off, we need to have a revised prototype. In this case, they will just send pictures during the manufacturing process, showing us that what we require, the changes we required, have been put in place.
So this is the Penske Sunoco 512
Yes.
M00.
Yes,
Product.
exactly.
Thank you very much. I really love it. Very, very nice. What else you have here? I see 3 boxes, Maurizio.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
These are, while we are talking about classic cars, you know my favorite brand of racing
Well,
cars ever.
Favorite person in the world, maybe.
Possibly, well, except for relatives, wives. Yes. Yes. Chaparral. The 2F.
2F.
You know, it's imprinting.
Okay.
When
Does the wing move?
of course.
Come on.
The wing is in 2 positions. I mean, it's a Chaparral.
Okay.
It has to have.
The
Really?
2E moves too, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
It's just my.
Yes, and I've had, as you know, the privilege of being shown around the Chaparral, the Rattlesnake Circuit, the Midland Museum by Mr. Jim Hall himself, the man himself. And I will hand it over to you, but let me explain a few details first.
Okay.
This is the Daytona version. And as far as I know, well, certainly not as a slot car, I don't think so, but maybe not as a static model,
Mhm.
has been made properly. If you are familiar with the 2F,
Mhm.
the 2F has, in general, let me take air extractors here,
Okay.
whereas in Daytona, this was the first outing of the car,
Mhm.
the air comes out, enters the radiators here.
Can you show a little bit higher? Yeah. There
Yes,
we go.
the air enters the radiators here
Okay.
and does not come out from the top like in the 2E, for example,
Mhm.
but comes out from the back of the car here. So straight, the air comes in straight from here.
To there. It's
To
just like
there.
a passage.
Yes.
No-
Also,
no attempt of ground effect or anything like that, right?
well, the ground effect
Comes
No,
from the wing.
come from the wing. And another thing that can be seen in the pictures is that if you look at the car from this angle here,
Mm-hmm.
they had nothing basically there.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, because we cannot let the electric motor, you know,
Yeah, on the way of the mold.
no, yes, we cannot let it see through because there should be a real motor there.
Mm-hmm.
So we put this black plastic here that like in the real car, allows you to see through the sides. And there are other significant changes in the Daytona version. The rear mirror, they later moved to a periscope type mirror
Yes.
here, and there is no air intake on the front of the car. And this makes it very unique. This is Daytona only.
Yeah.
So it's completely straight.
Sleek. Yeah.
Yes, sleek, flush. And
But there's two air scopes right here. In front
yes,
of the car, small ones.
yes, and that's
But
also
that's just
unique.
for the brakes.
Frankly speaking, I think so. I think
Yeah.
it was for the brakes, and there were brake ducts. But
Brake
that
ducts.
also was changed later to a different, and that change will be in the next version. We will basically change the tooling. So this is not going to be remade, because then the tooling will be changed to match.
Looking that close, it's funny because you can see that it's a prototype. You can see that the plastic's not like final production quality, right?
This is a prototype. Yes.
Thank you very much again. So many gifts today.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's pretty cool. And the coolest thing about the Chaparral cars, they're sponsored by Cox,
Yes.
which is a
Yes.
famous slot car brand here in
Exactly.
America. And then you have a newer slot car based on an older car, sponsored by an older slot car company.
Yeah.
There we go. Very, very nice. Full circle. The slot car company making it possible and coming back as a slot car.
Yeah.
I see another box, Maurizio. I see another box.
Yes, could be probably the 2F that won the.
The next one?
No, I mean, you mean you see another box of Chaparral?
Another box of cars
another
over there.
box.
You have
No,
another
because
Ferrari over
I
there.
was thinking about making a special box for the
Oh, a special box.
for the celebration of the victory in the British.
And those are the CW lines, right?
Yes, possibly. Yes.
W stands for winners.
Yes.
so
the
those-
one
those
in
are-
Brands Hatch.
Those are the ones that come in a nice box with a
Yes.
cellophane plastic paper around it. I have the ones that we don't sell well here are the DTM cars, and I know that you have the Alpha from Nicola Larini,
Yes.
which is the classic DTM car. I grew up watching those races.
Yes.
And then the Cliff car, the black car, the Opel
Mm.
Caliber one, which is not very popular here in the United States, but
Yes, it's
we raced
understand-
that at Far Out, and that's my car because
It's
that is
understandable.
the car that
DTM is very European.
but it's so cool. It's probably
Yeah.
one of the coolest racing series ever.
Absolutely. If you look at the
It's
footage on
the
YouTube,
90s.
and if you look at the famous Nicola Larini clash against, I don't remember what Audi or Mercedes was.
Yeah.
Or Nannini. It was Nannini. that-
Nannini, yeah.
Nannini, yes. He was bumped out of the race, so that prevented him from winning the championship, and they did it probably on purpose. I mean, it was
Probably
yeah.
that time.
Yes, but then he went back to the pit lane, got fresh tires, chased the guy, and put him out of the race. It was,
Just for that.
just for that. It was a road rage at the highest level.
Highest level. Television and that's it.
Yes.
That's racing.
Yeah.
And now you have
Well-
Didier.
Well, maybe the highest levels was Prost versus Senna.
Yes. In 2 years.
In 2 years.
consecutive
2 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's something that as a Brazilians, we Brazilians, we kind of don't like what Senna did over there. Like we knew that he was looking for revenge,
Yeah.
and it was too dangerous. Like the crash was just too big.
It was a big crash. Yes,
Yeah.
high speed.
Suzuka first corner. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we know that he got screwed up in the year before.
Yes, and also
But
You know,
again,
it
was a big aggression.
it was a big crash. I mean, those guys. I mean, to get to that level of,
Yeah.
of speed,
mind games too.
of
and
mind games. I mean, you have really to be on top of everything. Those guys are
You know that-
amazing.
you know
If
that
you
I-
think
that-
about
I met Alan Prost in Austin 2019. I was photographing for a newspaper, and he was just walking the paddock by himself. And I have like a brief exchange with him, like 1
Yes.
minute. Just I walk with him, and then I say, "Look, I'm from Brazil. I'm a big fan of yours, and I know that most of that clash that you guys have or media stuff,
Mhm.
and I know that at the end of his life, you guys are getting along." And he said, "Yeah, we used to talk over the phone all the time." When he retired, Senna used to call to him.
yeah,
So it was kind of almost like, I don't want to say that, but it was almost like a father and son relationship, because he saw the guy as the legendary driver that he needs to beat.
Yes.
But after that, he was seeking some sort of guidance from the guy.
Yes. Which
So-
which leads us actually to a very sad story, because I have in my hands, the Ferrari C2, and this is Didier Pironi's car, yes, and as it was tested in Long Beach, because I think only Jules Villeneuve raced with a double wing in Long Beach.
Double wing, yeah, which
Yeah.
is kind of cool.
Yes, and we have been asked, why did you make Pironi car before Jules Villeneuve's? The reason is that we are planning to make a boxed Jules Villeneuve number 27, and that did not come ready in time. So, and this was the second car to be made. So we had to switch.
Okay.
And so I think this car is really nice. I'm happy.
It's very, very cool.
Yes. And I would like to show you the Venturi tunnels under the car. Oops.
Ooh. That's fine. Okay, I can see that.
We could have
So the body goes over the chassis, and you have the real car tunnels
yes.
around it. That's pretty cool. Didn't focus here. Yeah. We're gonna shoot some pictures, and I'm gonna cover this part of the conversation with the
Yes.
pictures. Yeah, that's a very detailed model, and with your technology below it, it's gonna be a really nice
Yes, we are going to use
race car, slot car.
We've asked to use black screws, so that
So it's not gonna be the silver
it's not
ones.
complete- yes.
So
will
this
look
is
better.
another prototype.
This is yes. This is yes.
Thank you very much again. That's three
Ain't I
very
kind?
nice gifts.
Ain't I kind,
gifts.
Marco?
So explain me something about the wing.
Yes.
This is only for this car, right? It's only for the 82 Long Beach, because this wing was.
Yes.
You told me before the conversation. This wing was forbidden.
Yes, actually, some British teams were running underweight cars because they had introduced a water system that would cool the brakes, but actually they would just discharge the water at the beginning of the race.
Yes.
And because they were allowed to refill the water, they were running underweight, and they would top up the water at the end of the race. So it was just a,
That was Williams, right, with Keck and Rosberg.
I don't know, I think
But there was
Tyrrell did.
something related to the ground effect too, that they need the car lower for the first
They
for
ma-
qualifying or something.
I
like
mean,
that.
they made all sort of things.
Yeah.
I mean, what they did with the Brabham, with
So the wing was some sort of a.
okay. So it was like a sort of protest from Ferrari against the fact that FIA had not intervened to prevent the British manufacturers, or some British manufacturers, to race with underweight cars. So because of the rules did not specify probably the number of wings, and but only said that the rear wing could only be 110 centimeters wide. They said, okay, it is wide, it is 120 and
From
10
here to
centimeters,
here.
but
from
there's
here to
two.
here.
There is two. Yes, exactly. They
Oh, maybe in the middle. Oh, this is the measure from the middle.
no. I mean the width.
Oh, the width. Okay.
So basically, those are two rear wings soldered together, joined. Two front wings. Front wings
Yeah.
joined together. Yes, and the car, Jules Villeneuve, started from 7th place and eventually got third, only to be later disqualified. Whereas the cars that were running underweight were not disqualified. But at that point, they had thrown a stone, so to speak, in a lake. And I think other makers, like probably Renault, said, okay, so next race we will also race underweight. And then eventually the water braking cooling system was banned for the rest of the season.
So we have the Didier Pironi car.
Yes.
Is that the name? Yeah, right.
Didier Pironi,
Pironi,
yes.
yeah. So and then next you're gonna have the Gilles Villeneuve.
Yes.
That's gonna be hard to market, because people are gonna be waiting for the Gilles Villeneuve 27 car.
Yes.
Yes. So how
Yes.
long is gonna take in between?
Not much, because the prototype is ready. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring it here because
And the Jill's, the wing is different, right?
no, yes, it's different,
Yes.
and it's
But
going to
that-
be the Zolder car.
That's a special car with this wing,
It is.
and it's gonna be the only model with this, right?
Yes, and also we're making number 27, both.
No, I
Yes.
know, but
Only one.
no, but the 27 doesn't come with that wing. Comes with the flat wing, right?
There are 5 possible models
Okay.
because they race with the front wing, with the rear wing as normal, or with the ring with the double rear wing, with a split rear wing as it was.
So
in
we're gonna have the
Malaysia.
27 car with the split and the
Later, much
Okay.
later. It's probably going to be the last 27 car
Very-
we're going to
very-
make. And then we will make also later on the Andretti and Tambay versions, but they require a different body shell, which we're going to make. Mario Andretti drove that car to pole position. He arrived in Monza, I think, on Thursday. Friday, sat on the car, pole position, and then
there's
and then he did.
there's a place in Indianapolis called Hall of Fame. They
Yes.
sell memorabilia for Formula One. They sell like used helmets, used racing suits,
Yes.
and like pieces of cars. It's a very nice store. I met the guy in Indianapolis a couple of years ago, and this week you mentioned Mario Andretti and Monza. He's selling the Mario Andretti suit for Monza,
Wow,
the original one. I can show you pictures later. Guess the price.
I can't.
Guess. Original Mario Andretti used Monza
500,000?
50,000.
Oh, okay.
But it's still 50,000.
No, but you know, these days, I mean,
Yeah.
the memorabilia of that type
That type
could-
is kind of
could-
crazy, right?
fetch
Fetch a lot of money.
a lot of money.
This is very nice, Maurizio. This is very, very
Thank
nice.
you.
So I was at the UK festival, and you participated in a race over there.
Yes.
And they raced those guys, but very well developed. Like they not only using the polycar cars
Yes.
of your collection, but they also using 3D printed chassis,
Yeah.
using Fly and other brands' bodies, and your technology below it.
Which is what I did at
This might be your next class here because those cars are so nice.
the plan is to have the Alfa Romeo 179.
Okay, can I have that?
Yes.
All right.
The Alfa Romeo 179, driven by Bruno Giacomelli, is a good friend of mine, Vittorio Brambilla, Patrick Depailler, Andrea
Mhm.
De Cesaris, and maybe, if I'm not wrong, Mario Andretti as well.
Okay.
Very nice car to complement that one.
So who's gonna make the body for that?
Oh, no, I'm talking about polycar cars.
The polycar cars. Okay.
Yes.
No, I was mentioned that class that you race over there. That people were just like this
Yes.
amazing grid of amazing cars, using fly bodies and your
Yes.
technology under the 3D chassis.
Exactly.
What is the name of that guy that I forgot? And I
Andrew
didn't-
Rowland?
Probably. I need to get in touch with that guy.
Andy is the original designer of the idea behind the pod. We did the engineering because we had to put the thing in production, and it
Okay.
wasn't definitely easy. But we were not planning to make Formula Ones because I did not want to make just a Formula One with the big normal crown on the back of the car, because it ruins
Yeah.
the classic Formula One, really, in my opinion.
That's you need a tube. You need a different tire. You need to be higher and
Yes, and if you look at the rear end of this car, of the detail and motor, it is just like the real car, and I would not have accepted anything less than that in Formula One, in historic Formula Ones. So one day, Andy, that I knew before, came to our office with his ideas, and we decided that was what we needed to make classic Formula One cars.
okay.
Yeah, and now he's making 3D printed chassis for quite a lot of old fly cars, and I've used one of his chassis with my own development of the motor pod,
Gearing and tires
gearing
and
things
everything.
to make a March 240, which is the 6-wheeler, which is what I raced with in
This-
England.
The Williams, right? The six.
It was the Williams made a 6-wheeler. car, but also March made the 240 car, which
Okay.
was a six-wheel car.
The six wheelers, four in the back.
Yes,
Okay.
and it's called 240 because it's two wheels at the front, four rear wheels, and no other wheel. It comes from the train.
Oh, okay.
The 240. If you're a
240.
train modeler,
You know
I'm
what I'm
not,
talking about.
but you know what it means.
This is very nice. I need to get in touch with him because that might be your next class. It's a class that you need a little bit of craftsmanship, and the car
Yes.
just look nice and amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. Mauricio, I think that's it. I took your time. Took a lot of your time today.
It was my pleasure, really, Marco.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about the future projects? That is where is Slot.it standing today? I know that we're starting a new distribution for you here.
Yes.
Feel free.
Well, I think this is first, I would like to thank the former distributor, Hornby US. They did a very good job for us for so many years. But, sometimes things need to be changed. And so we have decided, we think that we can do a very good job together. You're very good at, obviously, what you're doing. And we can promote Slot.it and Polycar here in the US. So we're really looking forward to it. And actually, I see, the enthusiasm and the effort that you've put into this national championship.
It's going to happen. It's going to be good.
Yes.
The distribution thing, I know that's a part that we're not supposed to be talking because it's industry information. I really don't like to share this kind of stuff because it creates so much gossip. But that this deal was something that I never pursued. I never approach you talking about, we need to do a deal. I want to distribute Slot.it here in the United States. For me, the job that Hornby was doing was pretty good. I was dealing with Tony. Never had any problems. Of course, sometimes we have lack of parts, and we are like a racing focus store, and people want parts and wants like very specific stuff that they're not bringing. So I have to come to you to start to bring those stuff. It was pretty hard in the beginning. And to be honest, I don't believe, and that's a little bit more of industry, of the industry side that I'm not supposed to be sharing, but I personally don't believe in the distribution, how it's set up right now when I start to work for this place here. I don't think that I should be sending money to competitors to get stuff that I could get straight from the manufacturer and have a much closer relationship. But once again, I got a class from my boss, who is a very successful businessman, and he told me something that changed my mind. He said that we need to feed the smaller resellers.
Yeah, exactly.
We need to expand the product around the country because those guys that are going to need 4 or 5 cars to resell, they're not going to ship it from Italy. They need somebody local that can pick up the phone and send the cars and send the parts that they need. And then in contrast with the goal of the whole movement that we're doing here at Electric Dreams, I think that's reasonable because we want to expand the slot cars. We want to bring the slot cars back as it was in the 60s here in the country. So this is very important for us. Like our goal distributing your products is not like to make a ton of money or just try to be protective about it or just to try to sell 1 week, 2 weeks before or other resellers, but it's to distribute it to the small guy, to have more slotted products around each corner in America, like we have in the 60s.
In fact, there are some retailers that will get product directly from us.
Yes.
And what you said is exactly true.
Yeah.
There's another point to this, is that now that we have a track, we have chosen preferably not to be distributed by company that also
sells track systems.
a track system.
Yeah.
And that is also true not only for the US.
Yeah. Anyway, I think the future is bright. Back in 2019, when I was in Reggio Emilia visiting you, I was very excited about the 132nd World because I was just discovering, and you told me something that it turned me down a little bit. You just say that back in 2009 and 10 were the kind of golden era for the 132nd scale, and now you're going down. I believe that we can turn this thing up again.
We have seen
The
good
past
sign.
2 years,
Yes.
especially because of the pandemic,
Yeah,
home
the pandemic.
activity.
Yes, we've seen people come back to the hobby, and this wave seems to be continuing in 2022. Of course, we hope that the pandemic is going to be over,
Yeah.
and we've seen clubs reopening, and I think that the future looks better than what
It was 5 years ago, right?
Yes.
Let's do it. Let's sell those cars. Those cars are beautiful. Look at this. Look at this. On the race right now. But thank you very much for the prototypes. They're amazing gift. Maurizio, thank you again. All right.
Thank you, Marco.
See you at the track. Now that you're racing, I have your car ready.
Good.
It's a Porsche
Can't
960, 956 with the boss livery. So the boss for the boss, all right?
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you, Maurizio.